Well, let's speak now to Marco Vincenzino, Director of Defence Analysis Group, the Global Strategy Project. Thanks for coming in. President Obama said that we are in a much better place in Afghanistan this year than we have been in previous years, and yet this is the bloodiest year, isn't it, in terms of coalition losses and Afghan civilian deaths. Is he right to say that?
I don't know if I would use that wording, but what I would say is that it's the first year that there's actually been a serious effort to change the situation on the ground in Afghanistan. That, yes.
And in terms of the deadline of 2014-2015, how credible is that Afghan forces will be ready to take over by that date?
In my opinion, it's not seriously realistic. The reason being is that it's only now that Afghan forces are starting to get the full supplies and the real training that they need. It's only been in recent months, and to create a real armed force, a real efficient, effective fighting force, can take anywhere from 5 to 7 years.
So that caveat, as outlined by Anders Fogh Rasmussen, that depending on conditions on the ground, troops would stay longer, is the right approach? Is it as opposed to David Cameron's approach, saying, no, that is our deadline and we're out of here?
In my opinion, it should be performance targets. These performance targets, it's based upon at what level Afghan security forces can provide for their own defense of the country. Based upon that, you begin a process of de-escalation, but it has to be proportional. If that's not the case, and then I think there could be a disastrous outcome in the end.
Okay, and that military strength, of course, predicated on what the political stability is in the country at that time. How optimistic are you about that being in place?
Listen, in Afghanistan, in my opinion, politically, there has to be a devolution of authority from the center of Kabul down to the provinces, because Afghan society is not a modern nation state and will never be, in my opinion. It has to be local autonomous regions having more decision-making power about their own future, and that needs to take place more.
But can that structure exist as an extension of what is in place at the moment, or does that need a radical overhaul, given the fact that it is Hamid Karzai in power now and it's sort of top-down in terms of led from Kabul?
The strategy that's been launched over the past year has taken this approach, a more of a devolutionary approach. And once again, it can't be from the top down. It has to be from the bottom up. And once again, we see that that's the intent of the strategy that's been launched, and it's been taking place over the past year. Now, what will be the full outcome? You need at least 12 to 18 months to see initial progress. And once again, the sad reality for the politicians is that that does not fit political calendars.
The Russian involvement here, how interesting is that, given the history that Russia had there? Is this overture being made by them, by NATO, as a position of strength or weakness? Does NATO need Russia much more than perhaps it thought it would ever need to?
Yes, it does, primarily for many reasons, but I'd say logistics. 80% of the supplies going into Afghanistan goes through Pakistan, and we've seen in recent months a lot of attacks on those supply routes, and they need to diversify those routes coming from parts of Central Asia and particularly from Russia. And
potentially Afghanistan, and a destabilized Afghanistan, extremely important for Russian security as well in the long run.
The entire neighborhood. It's destabilizing for Pakistan, destabilizing for Iran, the Central Asian republics. It's destabilizing for regional stability and for international stability.
Okay, Marco Vincenzino, thank you very much for coming to talk to us.
Cheers.